A Lofted Mind, the podcast. Yeah. My mind's lofty. They said you got the game, so talk it. Now I'm out thuggin', I'm saucy. A lofted mind on the grind, just subscribe to me. My mind's lofty. They said you got the game, so talk it. Now I'm out thuggin', I'm saucy. A lofted mind on the grind, just subscribe to me.
Welcome back to the Lofted Mind podcast. I'm your brain, Rick Law. This is week 2, episode 2 of the podcast. Like I told you from the very beginning, I'll be open and honest with you. We're still in the building stages, getting the numbers up. I'm getting the audience built. I got very good feedback from the first week, the art versus the artist, as well as the subsection called Let Me Tell You How They Got Me Fucked Up. Got good reviews, good feedback, still building, and I surely appreciate you all tuning in and growing with me. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about the emotional wall and the impact that has on men and women that are in relationships who may or may not understand what they do. So I'm just going to jump right on into it today. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to all my media platforms that's actually available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Just search the Lofted Mind podcast and it shall be there. On your iPhones, you can just go to the podcast app, type in Lofted Mind podcast, and you got me there. So let's just get on into it. Loft your mind. People change. Relationships sour. Feelings get hurt. And the strong people, including the survivors and self-preservationists, they get proactive in protecting themselves from further pain. It's what I call the fuck it factor, and it is truly necessary in order to maintain your sanity. It's basically a strategic play on not sulking, not blaming self, and being able to get over someone quicker. You literally just say fuck it. However, it's meant to be a temporary coping mechanism, something to help you get over whatever or whomever it is that is causing you emotional strife. It is not supposed to be a permanent fixture in your character. When it does become permanently affixed to the person and that person's persona, it's no longer a factor, it's a wall, an emotional wall. And it's stronger than that bullshit Trump was thinking about building at the border. There is no tunneling underneath. There is no hang gliding over it. There is no bulldozing through it. An emotional wall is impenetrable, and it often causes more pain than what would have been endured if there was no wall at all. That wall is rough and tough with the Afro puffs. Rage. Rock on with your bad self. But here's the problem. That emotional wall literally takes away all authenticity from the host. They begin forcing resistance to things they would have otherwise indulged in. They begin blocking how much they love a person in fear of said love collapsing again. I know y'all remember the brick wall from when we were kids. Somebody would say something you aren't trying to hear, and you would put your hand directly in their face and say, "Brick wall." Grown-ass people are still doing that today, but they are actually bricking themselves and preventing their own happiness. For instance, a man with an emotional wall, he just disconnects from all things considered in the male population as being soft. He's not dancing with you. He's not participating in any metrosexual activities such as pedicures, couples massages, and shopping sprees. He's not doing it. One may consider why this is the case, and as a lofted mind, I have a theory, but first let me clarify what I just said. I personally, Rick Law, I don't feel those activities are soft, or even necessarily metrosexual. But whether I believe it or you believe it, that doesn't really matter. Many men do believe that to be the case. So about this theory, those intimate dates and us activities bring couples closer together. I could get scientific and delve into shared behaviors and cognitive conditioning, but I'll spare you the boredom. The point is, the more you do together, the more in tune you are with one another. And the more in tune you are with one another, the harder you tend to love. Those scarred men with an emotional wall, They are subconsciously or sometimes intentionally brick walling those activities to not love so hard. I can sense some of the women's feelings right now as you soak in this aha moment. See, they don't speak on this in church in those relationship podcasts that feed all that cute talk. Loft your mind. But you may be partially correct in thinking those men are too busy trying to be tough. But that too tough protection may be surfacing from pure pain, and he simply doesn't know how to cope with his own vulnerability. In regard to a woman, that emotional wall hits a lot different. In the prior example, lots of women actually have no issue with a man being a bit distant because she doesn't like to be smothered and or she would rather do those activities with her friends, her mother, family, whoever else. But when it comes to most men who are intimate and loving, who are seeking that reciprocated interest and togetherness, that brick wall from a woman feels awful. And I've witnessed this up close and personal. Women who have a conditioned labeling in society of being more emotional and feelings oriented, when those feelings are non-existent or buried, it can drive a man crazy. A big reason why is that in a lot of cases, men who are feelers not only need the love they show a woman in return, but they more so need to see it being received, acknowledged, and appreciated. Because of how the social conditioning is of what a man is supposed to represent, men who go against the grain and embrace love more than lust, they can get that Keisha Cole vibe like I should have cheated, or I should have done something else. But in reality, men have to realize those walls are generally a byproduct of many mistreatments in the past. The wall is there typically because you weren't proven to be completely trustworthy. Whether the lack of trust is warranted or not is a different discussion. But there is still normally psychological rationale behind the emotional wall being run into. The challenge is trying to overcome it. Me, I ain't got the time. Others, they try again. Lots of time to no avail. The reality is that some women who say, I'm just going to be single forever, they are absolutely correct. The women, just like the men, are in their own way, brick walling themselves from happiness. And I've explained how it manifests itself in men, but again, it looks a lot different with a lot of women. It often comes with extreme indecisiveness about public appearances, random moments of lack of intimacy, like wanting to cuddle and be held, but not for too long, keeping the relationship a secret from her loved ones, the list goes on. She is actively trying not to fully connect in an effort to avoid another not again emotional episode. Regardless of whether it's a man or a woman with the emotional wall, it's comparable to fasting for a huge Thanksgiving feast. Mostly everything is done and you have the green light to dabble a little bit until the family meal begins, which could be a long ass time to be waiting depending on your family. But you have this wall up because you know in the past you've overindulged. So your smart ass decided from now on, I'm going to not enjoy all these blessings pre-completion. You're just going to wait it out until you know everybody else is ready and everything is complete. And to your surprise, once you are finally ready to indulge, after waiting all this time, your appetite is gone. So is your enjoyment, and so is your purpose behind the wait. And to wrap this back around with some relevance, oftentimes what is also gone is your mate that's been trying to feed you personal blessings, attention, time, and their love. All now gone because you couldn't enjoy what was directly in front of you. And that was because of what happened in the past. Enjoy those blessings. Receive those gifts. The emotional wall is not only blocking them, but it's also blocking you. Like, share, subscribe. It's the Lofted Mind Podcast. Loft your mind.
My mind's lost. They said you got the game talking. Now I'm mind fucking, I'm sauce. A lofted mind on the grind, just subscribe to me.